So hello everyone and welcome to a video that I'm very excited to bring to you, and that is the open beta of the Valorant Fantasy League. I'm calling it the open beta because as I speak to you, there are still some things that, we're figuring out, like the fixtures page here, page is still under construction. So there are still some things that, need to be added onto it, but for now we have a working game essentially, and I hope that you'll all be playing it very soon. First off, let's talk about, Fantasy Valorant, what that is and what that entails and why you might actually want to play it, right? So fantasy sports is something that goes back quite a way, I think even to the 1990s, right, with fantasy NFL and this fantasy, Premier League and all these kind of ideas. And the main idea of all of these fantasy games is essentially the same. It's just to give you more reason to actually enjoy and watch the sport, right? Or the esport in this case for Valorant, right? Like, for instance, have you ever found yourself watching C9 versus Furia and thought, why the hell am I watching this game? I don't really care about this game. Well, fantasy sports or fantasy esports is a way to get you to care a bit more about the game, right? For instance, you might have Oxy on your fantasy team, and so therefore you want C9 to win and you want Oxy to pop off, right? Whereas before you didn't have any rooting interest in the game, now maybe you do because you want bragging rights over your friends. And this is completely free to play, so that is why you might want to play Valorant Fantasy. Now, if you are going hardcore into this, I am setting up my second channel, which used to be my VODs channel down here, and you can find it at the bottom of the VFL page. That is going to essentially be dedicated now to Valorant Fantasy League. I'll leave a link in the description as well, and this video will also be on that channel, as well as some guides and stuff like that. So if you're really into it, you can go there and, get updates from me of, how my team is doing and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's get on to, what's going to happen. So the first thing you're going to do, of course, is register to play, right? That's the first thing that you're going to do, and you're going to come here and you're going to click this little register button. And what it's going to do is it's going to authorize with Discord, your Discord account just here, and you're just going to click authorize, and then it's going to successfully logged in, right? So now I'm connected with my Discord account onto the VFL page, and so now that's my account created right through Discord. So that's how you're going to do it. Then let's come to the rules, right? Because of course you're going to need to know about the rules and how to win essentially. There's also on this page, some frequently asked questions, some little tips as well. I will do a guide video talking more in depth about these things, but let's talk about the rules. So the first thing you're going to do is select an initial squad. We'll get to that in just a second, but what you need to know is you're going to pick a team of 11 players, right? You're going to have 2 of each role in Valorant and 3 wildcard players, and the wildcard players can be anyone from any role, assuming that you haven't already picked them, of course, but other than that, it can be anyone. You're going to have a budget of 100 Valorant points. Now, players are going to be costed from 5 to 15 Valorant points in increments of 0.5, and you need to create 11 players, consisting of that. You can have 2 players from any single team, right? So you can't just pick 5 G2 or T1 players. That would be too easy. The next thing is managing your squad. So from that 11 that you choose, each week, you're going to pick 8 players who are going to play for you, right? There's going to be 3 on the bench. They will do nothing for you that week. And there's going to be 8 players who actually score points for you in any given week. You're also going to select an IGL, and that IGL will score double the points in that week, right? They don't have to actually be an IGL in Valorant. They can be anyone, right? It can be Aspas if you want it to be, right? But that player will score double points. Next up is transfers, and basically up to the first game week, so before Friday essentially that's coming up, you can make unlimited transfers to your team. But after that, you'll get 1 transfer a week, essentially. So you can swap out a player and swap one in. However, it still needs to, you can't at any point go over the 100 Valorant points, right? So you have to stay within the budget, but you will basically get the funds for the player that you got rid of, and you'll be able to pick someone else, with the funds you've got left. Deadlines, and you can make all of these changes. So your starting 8 transfers, your IGL, those have to be made before the deadline each game week, right? So the first deadline is going to be the C9 versus NRG game, the first game in Americas. But from then on, it will be the first EMEA game each Wednesday. From Monday to Wednesday is when you'll have your kind of little break between Pacific and EMEA to make changes. Now let's talk about scoring, right? So this is obviously very important because this is how, you're going to decide how to pick the actual players. There's 3 ways that you're going to get points in this game. Okay, the first one here is kills. So very simply, you're going to get a point if your player gets 10 kills in any map. right? You're going to get 2 if they get 15 kills in a map. You're going to get 3 if they get 20. And for every increment of 5 going up, so 25, 30, you'll get 1 extra point, right? Now, that you don't get like half points or anything like that. So if you got 24 kills, you would still only get 3. But if you got 25, you would then get 4. Right, so that's how it works for kill points, and that's for every individual map that is played. You're also going to get a +1 if a player ever gets a 4K in a round, and a +3 if you get a 5K, or even better, of course you could get a 6 or a 7K in a round. You get +3 if you get that as well. The next way to score points is maps, right? So you're going to get +1 for any map win. So if the team, wins a map that your player is on, you get a point. You also get a +2 extra bonus for winning 2-0. Right, so if you won 2-0, you would get 2 points for winning the 2 maps, and you would get a bonus 2 for winning 2-0, and so you would get 4 points if the player wins 2-0. You're also going to get an extra point if you win a map by 5 rounds, right? So anything 13, 8 or better, you get an extra bonus point for that player, and everyone on that team will get that extra point. Or you can get +2 for winning by 10 rounds, so 13, 3 or better. However, if one of your player loses a map, 13-3 or worse, so they only get 3 rounds or less, they actually get a -1 for that map. And then finally, you get bonus points, which is quite easy to understand. Basically, the top 3 players in VLR rating for the entire game, the top player will get +3, the second best will get +2, and the third best will get +1. And then if any players have a VLR rating for the entire game above 1.5, 1.75, or 2, they will then get a +3 for being over 2, +2 for 1.75, and a +1 for 1.5. Now, this is pretty hard to do. I mean, especially 2. Getting above a 2 in a game is really... We might get 1 in the entire season, right? So you won't be getting these too often, but if you do, you'll know someone had an incredible performance. And so now let's head on over to the team page and talk about creating your team, right? So you can see here at the top, we've got 100 Valorant points to spend, right? You can also call your team something. So if you click on the little thing here, I'm going to call them for now, let's call them TMV's Farm. And you can see here, we've got 2 duelist roles, 2 initiators, controllers, sentinel, all that, and your 3 wildcards down here at the bottom that can be anyone. Let's say we want to pick a player. Now, the first thing I need to talk about is these players who cost 99. Right, so these are in the game basically because a bunch of teams, of course, have made roster moves very recently, and essentially VLR right now, of course, we're using the VLR API, they still have them listed on the roster, essentially, and not as subs or inactive players. And so this is why they just are here costing 99. But for right now, we kind of don't know what to do with these. They kind of just exist. So just ignore these. Obviously, you can't have them in your team because they cost 99, and so you can't create the rest of your team. But then looking at the rest of the players here, you've got obviously some of your premium duelists, your Aspasses, your Durkas, your Zekans, Jogmo, your top duelists. And then as we go further down, you've got your duelists on perhaps some of your worst teams, perhaps you're not expecting to do as well. And you're just going to create a team of these players, right? So maybe you want Hyunmin in your team, so you click on Hyunmin there, add player, right? So in he goes. And you can set him to be an IGL if you want to as well, and he'll have his little IGL right there. Now, a crucial thing to note as well, of course, is that has now subtracted 14 from our points list, right? One thing you should know is that the duelists do all cost more than the non-duelists, because of course, one of the ways that you get points is through kills, right? And duelists tend to get more kills. And so eventually you will come to creating your team, which this will be the most important decision you make in regards to creating your team. Of course, you can see here we've got a bunch of different players, but what you might notice, and the challenge of the game is, right, some of these players are on teams that you probably don't think are that great. Right, but that's the thing, the way that these players are costed and the way hopefully it will work is you're not going to be able to create kind of a super team of all very good players on very good teams, because that would be too easy. Right, so you're gonna have, ooh, maybe I'll go for Purpo here, right, as one of my duelists. Do I feel great about it? Maybe not, but I suppose I'm going with it, right? And this is how you will end up creating your team, and hopefully that is how it will work. It's telling me that I have unsaved changes here. This is very important, of course, to, save your changes and confirm those changes, that is my team. And you can see now, here we go, this is my team. You might have noticed that I didn't spend all of my points either, right? So you can see here that I still have 1 Valorant point left. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to spend the exact 100. You can be under it, you just can't be over it. And also one thing to note is that these players here with the dotted lines, these are my 3 wildcard players. They have a dotted line because that denotes them being on the bench. You can bench any 3 players, it's completely up to you. Whatever 3 you want to bench, just know that, the wildcard players start off as your bench players. And so here's what it looks like when you do go for benching a player, for instance. You know, you can see I've done it with Moniette here. What will happen is you can just click the sub button just there. He'll go up. You see we've got the benches, these two now only. And let's say I want to change it and we're going to bench Purpo instead, right? So we're just going to send him to the bench. And, you know, we've got these three down here now. And, you know, Sagetsu comes up and you know, we have our 8 players and these guys are on our bench, right? Then again, we would just go for save changes, confirm, and now this is my team with those 3 down on my bench. There is just one little note that I want to make as well. This might be fixed by the time that you're watching this video, but just as I record this, if you try and bench someone before your final team is made, then it will just send them to the Netherrealm, right? So my team is fully made, so I can bench and sub players, and, you know, it's perfectly fine, and, you know, it will all work perfectly normally. However, if you try and bench someone before you've created your full team and saved that team, it will just send them to the Netherrealm. I will be doing other videos, you know, guides and etc., you know, on my other channel, as I said, my new channel that is dedicated to VFL. So if you want to know more, if you're really interested in it, then go and, you know, go to the link and subscribe to that channel, and I'll see you there for more VFL content.